my life. Who could complain on a day like today? It's impossible. We got a heat wave. It's hot here. It's hot here in the summer. I'll tell you where else it's hot in a few minutes. It's so hot everywhere. Mega global warming today. Super mega extreme weather. We're in the 90s today. 90 Fahrenheit. Crazy. What are we gonna do? My kids are headed to the water park, going water sliding. Bon matin. Good morning, Bitcoiners. B for victory. How you doing? How you doing? We're starting to get some YouTube comments. As long as I have one, that proves it's working on YouTube. I do wish we would get some indication on X what's going on, but that's okay. Good morning, Christine. Good morning. I hope you're doing well, Christine. I hope you're doing well. Yeah, I've got like something's wrong with this thing. Don't understand. Okay, there we go. That makes more sense. Lightning Ven, good morning from Minnesota. Hope it's not too hot in Minnesota. I don't know what you guys will do. We got good morning, Ben. Sluggo 123. Welcome back, Nolan. I haven't really been anywhere, Sluggo. I haven't been that far. I just didn't post on Friday. We had a bit of a late arriving situation on Thursday. My kids got back from Vermont, the townships, and they got in late, and then they had their last, like their homeschool party or whatever on the Friday. It was just too much going on. I couldn't wake them up. So we try not to miss too many weekday shows. John, sometimes it happens though. Hope you're doing well. P-Man says, it's hot in Montreal in the summer. C. Berger says, drinking iced coffee. Too hot this summer, indeed. Dale says, good morning. It's cold in Saskatchewan. Well, that's good to hear. At least it's cold somewhere. Joe says, we're working and the sun is shining this morning. Indeed. Matt, good morning, team. Bitcoin Deb says, good morning. Wake up, breakup team. Indeed, we love the wake up, breakup team. Assalamu alaikum. Heat wave by Hochul to cause more deaths than tornadoes, blizzards combined. Oh, Sluggo says, I should welcome myself back then. No, it's okay. We only missed one day. If you missed yesterday, then it would seem like, I'd say 4 days would seem like we're gone. Sean recommends, good morning, everyone. Hassan, good morning. Indeed, everyone, good morning. And as you've been already hinted, right? We've already hinted that, indeed, we have proof of sunrise today. The sun's up. We're doing great. The flag's down. But Bitcoin's running. All that's left for us to do is have a coffee and talk about what's new. Perfect. All right. You need your weather report, right? The official Moscow time weather report. Where is it hot? What is going on? You wouldn't know this otherwise, right? You just wouldn't know this. And we have to do a bit of a short episode today because I'm doing 2 podcasts this afternoon. So I got to kind of save my voice, and I have a few meetings this morning and some stuff to take care of. So we're not going to be running the full hour, but I knew you needed your weather forecast. What would you do without Moscow time weather? It's Moscow time weather report. Where is it hot? We find out here from the Washington Post, thank God, that actually in Washington, D.C., in the summer, it's hot. They say D.C. area forecast. It keeps getting hotter this week. It's hot in D.C. The city of Boston's hot too. Boston has announced Mayor Michelle Wu. That's the mayor that does a lot of the no white people allowed parties, right? So they have a Chinese, I don't know. I think she's born in America, so she's probably had nothing to do with Chinese, but maybe she's, her family's from China or something. And so she believes parties without white people are great. But she also is, she's not that bad. She's trying to help all the white people here, right? She gave them a heat emergency warning, trying to help them, right? poor people can't come to her Christmas party. But Michelle Wu does declare that a heat emergency in Boston begins today and goes through Thursday. And the heat emergency is happening. That's what they got in Boston. Where else is it hot? The national parks of the United States are hot. The national parks in the Midwest and the Mid-Atlantic expect to see temperatures in the high 90s. The high 90s. Actually, let's just say much of the U.S., this is according to Axios, much of the U.S. will be smothered in hotter than average conditions, right? Chicago is hot today. Chicago in the summer. But it's not just America, all right? The Toronto Star letting us know what is a heat dome, all right? What is a heat dome? Ontario is facing dangerously high heat and humidity this week. Here's why. Indeed, it's going to be in the 90s again. It's in the 90s in Ontario too. It might even get to the high 90s, right? That's not it. There's more. There's more. You didn't believe me, but there's more, right? It's not just America, and it's not just Canada and Ontario that have a heat dome. We got more. According to the Washington Post, it's the whole world, right? A trove of meteorological records show the extent of life-threatening heat across the globe. Now, I see a pattern. I don't know what to make of it, though. It seems like it's all here in like the middle. I don't know. I'm new at this meteorological stuff. I'm new at the weather. I didn't know about the heat before, but thankfully we have the news. And now I know all about summer and the connection with the heat. So we've got that. We've got the heat summer connection down. But I'm seeing something here in the weather. I don't know what it is. I don't know. Something's going on this part of the world. And it seems like it's all the dangerous, life-threatening heat seems to be here. So we're going to keep looking at this every day. Maybe we'll figure it out. We're getting closer. I know that according to Reuters, India's heat trap cities. So maybe that's what it is. Maybe this is like cities, but I don't know. Some places it's not all cities. But we're going to figure it out, guys. We're going to figure out why the middle is so hot. I'm not sure. But according again to Reuters, India's heat trap cities make summers worse. A government official said it yesterday. The heat traps make summer worse for heat, everyone. It's worse in the summer. It's worse. I don't know what to say, but it's not good. And now the Associated Press. China is getting too much rain in the south and not enough rain, plus a heat wave in the north. So it's in China too. This stuff's all happening in China too. Can't escape it, right? Now, even if you think you can escape it, right? We're hearing about it's hot in Spain too. Spain has had a bit of heat, but they got a separate problem here, and this comes from the BBC, right? They say too much of a good thing, Spain's green energy can exceed the demand. They have too much green energy. They have too much wind power now in Spain. Spain, what are they going to do with they did too much green. Too much. I don't know. So there you go. That's the weather report. We know it's everywhere, but kind of here in the middle. We're going to figure that out. We're going to try and put our minds to it. We just learned that it gets worse in the summer in India. It's worse. It's worse. I don't know if that's the same everywhere. We've noticed a pattern here in America and Europe that it does get kind of worse, the heat in the summer. I know in Montreal, it's kind of worse in the summer, the heat problem, right? We don't really hear much about it in the winter, but we're going to get to the bottom of this. We're getting there, guys. We're getting there, okay? I got some other good ones, though. It's not the only Moscow time I have. The Hill with a absolute bombshell. Breaking news yesterday. They had Anthony Fauci. Okay, Anthony Fauci did an interview, right? Anthony Fauci did an interview. And Anthony Fauci did an interview on MSNBC. And what did he let everyone know yesterday? What did he tell everyone? You're not going to believe it, guys. Yeah, I mean, sit down. If you're not sitting, sit down. Okay, if you got kids in the room, okay, because things are about to get a little touchy. Anthony Fauci said yesterday, according to The Hill, okay, Anthony Fauci said this yesterday. He says that Trump All right. He says that Trump, during 2020 COVID calls, this is the news, everyone. He says that Trump dropped F-bombs. It's a front page story. The Hill. There's a lot going on in DC, but I'm glad we know about this. I mean, he dropped F-bombs, guys. Trump swore during COVID on the phone. Thank God Fauci's here. Thank God. Whew. What would we do? What do we do? This one's in the same lines because I know, Fauci, the mask thing. Remember he said at first, right, don't wear masks. And then he was like, you got to wear masks. And then he was like, you got to really wear masks and you can't be around people. But I do kind of remember when he said, don't wear masks. But the good news is, he didn't say this in the interview yesterday, but the good news is we're finally getting somewhere with the mask. We're finally getting clarity. New York City has banned masks. They're banned now in New York City. The mayor yesterday banned masks. And he said it's actually because cowards wear them, right? Cowards wear masks, he says now. So, we're going to rehabilitate Fauci here. Maybe we don't have to drop him from space. Maybe he was right all along, right? He's out there letting us know that Trump swore on a call. He swore, guys. But at least now the science is with him on the masks. At least it's back to where he started, right? So we had the mayor of New York yesterday saying cowards cover their faces. Cowards, right? Because they're upset because the masks, it's like a lot of criminals are using them, right? That wasn't the intention, okay? But things didn't work out, so they got to do that. All right, that's what we got for Moscow time today, right? We're doing great. We're doing great. All right, we're going to go into our theme, and our theme starts with, it's hard to tell the difference between what is Moscow time and what isn't, right? It's all kind of the same thing. They're all a little bit the same. So we heard that the what's her name yesterday? Karine Jean-Pierre. She was doing her regular press meetings with the news and all that stuff. And she decided to say that the videos, now I'll give her a bit of credit on this, okay? Because everyone's talking about these videos of Joe Biden getting led off stage. All right, so what's going on with Joe Biden getting walked off stage, basically? So there was the first time at the G7 last week in Italy where Meloni had to go and grab him. Now, I will say that was an unfair edit. I think they're right about that one, right? So you didn't know what he was looking at. The camera cut it off, and you couldn't really tell what he was looking at over there. And then, you had this thing where he's lost. So I'll give him credit on that one. The one yesterday, he froze at this thing that George Clooney, that we were talking about yesterday, George Clooney and Julia Roberts and all these other people, right? So he was there with Obama, and he looked like he shut off at one point, right? So he just looked like he was turned off, and Obama grabbed his hand and walked him off. Who knows what's going on there? It looks to me like he's losing his mind and is having a sundowner moment, but we have pattern recognition troubles, and who knows? It's easy to get fooled. It is. You got to think about it the other way. Now, the Italy one, I would say, yeah, probably a fake edit. The same thing that they use to fake the Charlottesville hoax. It's a Rupar, as Scott Adams calls them, right? Aaron Rupar is the guy who clips videos to be like, whoa, did you see that? Oh! But if you see the whole video, there's nothing to see. I bet you Biden was looking at something in Italy. Honestly, I mean, he looked like he was looking at something, and then it was time to take a picture, and then he didn't know because his back indeed was turned. So I don't know if he was now, I'm not here trying to defend Joe Biden as being like coherent and in place, but with the right combination of drugs, I'm sure he's not as lost every single time as people suppose. I'm definitely saying he's mostly out of it, right? I don't believe this changes that he's got severe dementia and major problems and is mostly just working on the drugs that people give him, right? I don't think he's really home. And I bet what Obama did yesterday or 2 days ago to lead him off stage was probably the right plan, right? I think Obama was probably chose wisely on how to handle Biden. But watching people try to defend this, so you had Karine Jean-Pierre call it yesterday a cheap fake, right? She called it a cheap fake. So she came out and called it a cheap fake. You had other people going on about what it is. You had, she calls it a cheap fake video, right? Now, the problem is when you've got folks, and you've even got what's her name who came out, and this is the Nicole Wallace, the one with the air blown hair on MSNBC, like one of the dumbest people on television. She says there's a growing and insidious trend in right-wing media to take highly misleading and selectively edited videos of President Biden and use those videos to spread messages virally to cast doubt on President Biden's fitness for office. So they're saying that there's a new cheap fake thing. Now, of course, it's really just about blunting any criticism of Joe Biden's age. We've seen them running cover for that for a long time, right? No, it's actually Trump who's bad, and Trump is very coherent in public. But when you get him in private, he's a retard. And then the other thing is Joe Biden is magically genius when you have Janet Yellen telling you when you're in private with him, he's faster and sharper than me, right? Isn't it great having Janet Yellen constantly tell you that behind closed doors, there's a magic trick that happens and Joe Biden is the best? And then you get Nicole Wallace here trying to say, no, it's the videos, right? But again, the idea of the media not doing its job and actively coordinating, like the media could just say, well, there was other shots. This is what the people saw. What they're trying to do, it looks to me anyway, is sort of blend the two stories about selective editing and unfit for the job, the same way they did with Trump, right? When you just reverse the story, when you do the projection and you say that's you, right, but it's really yourself. So that's what we're seeing across the board. But when the media doesn't do its job to this extent, when the media abdicates its role, when the media doesn't do research and really is completely untrustworthy, and I would put the right-wing media in this as well, right? Indeed, I'm not a fan of selective edited things. There's enough. I used to say this about Trump to Democrats when they would fall for hoaxes. I would say, stop right there, right? In the last Trump administration, when you'd hear them fall for the hoaxes, I'd say there is enough to complain about with Donald Trump. You don't have to hallucinate and make things up. There's enough there, right? I don't want to hear about Charlottesville and fake things. Go with the real stuff, and then I'll have a conversation with you, right? I can agree he's not perfect, right? So it's the same thing with Biden. There's enough there that you don't have to make things up, right? There's enough content there. So when you see the media not doing its job and getting into one side or the other, you end up destroying the entire apparatus of the mainstream media, of these professional journalists that we've seen for so long with jobs, right? And the job part is really something we got to hone in on and we got to focus on, because people who have jobs need their paycheck, and people who need their paycheck can be easily influenced and coordinated and nudged into one direction or the other. And you can see it yesterday with this PBS journalist, right? So this is one of the funniest things you're ever going to see in your life. And this is like the Karine Jean-Pierre thing, right? This is like the Karine Jean-Pierre. So Karine Jean-Pierre going out, making up this cheap fakes thing. At the same time, you've got, this is one of the most amazing interviews you're ever going to see, right? So there's a PBS journalist talking to one of the squad members, Cori Bush, about her autobiography. And in it, she claims she performs these miracles, right? Like this homeless lady, unhoused woman came to her with tumors all over, and she prayed and touched the tumors. And then, so the funny part is she's doing the interview, and it's this typical white woman interviewing her, right? And so it's PBS. PBS is an important part because you got to know there are only shit libs watching and listening, right? So she's on PBS and she's listening to this story. Now, what does the journalist do, right? This woman is telling her basically she's cured this homeless woman of tumors. Okay, maybe. But then the follow-up questions are, did you ever see her again? She says, no, I never saw her again. I just believe she got cured. Who was she? Nobody knows. There's literally zero follow-up, right? Richard Hanania saying here, Cori Bush says she cured a homeless woman's tumors by putting her hands on them. And then Richard says, look how the interview asked respectful follow-ups. Imagine the freak out if MTG said she was a faith healer. Cue the misinformation experts, right? And everyone's saying, yeah, I never saw her again. No one knows if she lived or died, right? There's just zero skepticism from the interviewer. Tara Bull says AOC squad member Congresswoman Cori Bush says she cured women's tumors by putting her hands on them. So Finally, this is the point here. This is Cernovich saying, I love that this is treated like a legitimate conversation. White lady shit lib goes along with it. Because she, like, you could tell the white lady shit lib is just like, but she can't ask the questions. She can't do the job. She can't be like, are you sure that the person you never came in contact with again, never followed up with, got her cancer cured because you prayed on her? Because that the whole story she tells is she prays on her, and this actual homeless woman says, I feel cured. And she's like, great, I cured her. She's great. She's no problem. I can go do this all day. Scales. I'm going to go to all the cancer places and cure everybody, right? And her theory about why it worked was if she believes it works, and I believe it works, it worked. No follow-up needed, right? So now, I do think it's possible to cure cancer with things that aren't chemotherapy, of course, right? I'm not under some impression that you need to bow down to science in order to cure cancer. There's probably something out there that we don't know yet. It could be frequency related. Who knows, right? There's so little we know about any of this stuff because of our fake medical system and people like Fauci that it's just impossible to tell, right? The system is so corrupted and rotten and so full of entropy, and the incentives are so misaligned that no one should think of the medical system any longer as a place you go to get healed. When I tell people what my dad died of, and people even understand when I say this, right? I say, well, he died because he started going to the doctor too much. And people are like, yeah, I know what you mean. He's just going to look for stuff at the doctor, and the doctor doesn't care. The doctor's here, take this, take that, take this, take that, right? So when truthfully, now this is my dad's fault. I'm not blaming the system, right? My dad, being a typical boomer, would take all these things for his heart and just pound cake down, and he didn't care. McDonald's all the time. That's how they lived, right? So that's fine. Yeah, they're all into turkey tail. My dad did take a lot of turkey tail mushrooms. My brother is I got this comment here. That's why I'm saying that. Vito 1327. My brother is a mushroom forager in the summer times. He's a teacher otherwise, but he does mushroom foraging. As of next week, he'll be doing. So my dad did not die of cancer. He had cancer. But we did the fenbenzanol, ivermectin, vitamin E plan. No problem. That the cancer was not the trouble. My dad died of basically a fall related that he fell, and a month later he died. But there were complications from the fall. He fell because of a heart attack, and the heart attack was from 6 vaccines and who knows what else, right? And he had a heart thing about 10 years earlier, but anyway, I don't mean it against the medical system. So I'm not sitting here saying the medical system killed my dad. Typical man problem, heart trouble, typical boomer diet, drank for years, problems. So this is not a thing where I'm saying, it's the system's fault. It's not the system's fault, right? But truthfully, what killed him was him believing he was getting answers from the medical system. Well, I took a pill for that. I got a pill for that. Well, and my answer was always, you should just be eating bone broth and walking and exercising, and you'll live longer, right? He did the bone broth when I gave it to him. He did the exercising sometimes, but he was still is going to the doctor, right? He's going to the doctor. So it didn't work out. But going back to what we're talking about here, the media not doing its job and being incapable of doing its job sets up a situation where people are in big trouble, and you see clown world as it is. Here are 2 instances, right? So forget everything you know about Squad Member now and Corinne Jean-Pierre. What I mean is when the journalists don't hold these people to account, when you have shit lib women like this at the PBS who are just like, look at this stupid bitch telling me that she cured cancer, but she can't say anything. She can't do her job. It's the same with Corinne Jean-Pierre, right? When she's up there totally lying, she'll ignore the people who call her on it. She'll only deal with the people who don't call her on it. So there's no feedback. There's nothing like that, right? So the repercussions of that end up looking like this. And it came from Candace Owens yesterday. So there's 2 stories about this that I'll relate to. So Candace Owens, now on her own, left the Daily Wire. And I think her podcast is already at number 3 on Spotify or something. And so I was watching her new, I'm not a huge Candace Owens content consumer. I love her. I think she's great, but she's repeating most stuff that I know. It's just not, I'm not in her wheelhouse. Like, I'm not the kind of person, who consumes her content. But I loved her thing on Macron's wife, the French story about Macron's wife. If you're not up to date, Emmanuel Macron married his high school teacher who was 30 years older than him or something like that. They're still married now. She's apparently in her 70s or something. And there's a whole bunch of stuff going on with it that is weird. And just before she got fired from the Daily Wire, Candace Owens, she was covering this Macron story. And it sounds ridiculous, and it probably is. So if you put a gun to my head, the whole thing about the way she's covering this story is Emmanuel Macron's wife, who's 30 years older than him or whatever, is actually a trans man. All right. So that's what she's been saying. Now, she has no evidence, and she admits she has no physical evidence that this person is a trans man. What she has are the so-called earmarks of disinformation, right? What we heard from the 51 people who said these are the earmarks of Russian disinformation. Well, this is just Candace Owens alone saying these are my earmarks of disinformation, which are that it would be simple to prove that she wasn't a trans person by producing pictures when she was a kid. They haven't been able to do it. Anything from before she had her so purported sex change, they can't produce any of the pictures. There's no context for it. Now, again, if you put a gun to my head and say, is the Emmanuel Macron's wife a man or a woman? I would still say she's a woman, okay? But with not a lot of confidence. Now, it's not because I know anything special. It's because the way the system reacted to the stories about her having a sex change, and that's what tipped Candace Owens off. It's the way they handle the story. So it was instant shock therapy, send people out, get the files, prosecute the journalists, instead of just saying, no, come on, guys, this is not happening, right? They ended up using fake pictures of her daughter, coloring them black and white to look like a different era. And so she told this really neat story, Candace Owens, in this exercise about the CIA and exercises they ran in the 1960s and 70s about psychological manipulation. And one of them was they had this thing where they welcomed 18 people to an experiment, but truthfully, 17 of them were in on it. 17 of them were in on it. One person wasn't in on it. And what they did was they had them all line up, 18 people. So one person believed that everyone there was part of the experiment, not just them. The truth was they were the only person. They put them in a row. The person who was the only legit experiment person, the experiment was really on them, was the last person in the row of 18. And a person held up a picture, and they said it was a picture of a triangle. And they said to them, why don't you, what shape do you see, right? And so the first 17 people who were in on it all lied. They all said, I see a square, I see a square, I see a square, I see a square. That's what they were instructed to do. So 17 people lied to the person and said square, 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 even though it was a triangle. So the person who was last saw the triangle, but now at this point doesn't want to look like the crazy person and says square, right? Not a triangle, even though we know it's a triangle. It is legitimately and in reality a triangle. So the point was this psychological experiment to see how to influence people, to see if this crowd-based following system would work, because people don't want to stick out. And indeed, that's what it looked like, right? These were absolutely a psychological manipulation experiment, which worked. And so the Candace Owens describing that, showing how the journalists, only a handful of journalists were willing to do their jobs, were willing to ask Macron and his wife to produce proof, right, that this is true. Now, apparently in France, they're still saying Élysée. That's the Champs-Élysées. That's the palace, the Élysée Palace, where the executive branch. It's like the White House of Paris, of France, where they operate, are stressed about this. And people keep saying, well, why not just one picture of her when she's the right age, and let's go with it, right? So, but they have not been able to do that still to this day. And now it also reminds me of the case of Alex Jones and Sandy Hook, right? So it's the same kind of earmarks. So This is Amiri King on Twitter saying the following: whenever Alex Jones claimed Sandy Hook was fake, psyop / whatever, I dismissed it. Like, it's Alex Jones, you know, he's always on some crazy shit, right? Why would they fake something like that anyways? Boom. Filled in my mind under not worth my time, right? So, and I'd say I was like this. And the same thing with Sandy Hook. It's just like Macron's wife, right? If you put a gun to my head, I would say, yeah, official narrative, probably okay, right? If you said, like, you know, the world depends on you giving an honest answer, right? My honest answer doesn't mean a right answer. My honest answer would be probably Alex Jones was wrong. Probably the Macron story is exactly what we think it is, just normal, right? Just people going crazy, right? But because of the lack of faith we have in the media, because of them not doing their job, like Candace Owen said, it would be easy for the media to do its job with the Macron case, insist on proof, and it will all go away. But they won't do it. They'd rather say, you're a fucking racist, you're a fucking bigot, we don't have to produce proof, right? So there you go. So the Amiri King thing, let him finish, right? He says, boom, filled in my mind under not worth my time. Then he was successfully sued for $1.5 billion because of it. $1.5 billion. Wasn't it 1.5 trillion or something stupid? I don't remember. All because this man said this incident was a hoax. No cease and desist, just boom, life ruined. They're going to take everything this man built for the last 30 plus years because he questioned something. They're going to shut down InfoWars for simply questioning something. In my eyes, this just lends merit to his claims. Something must be amiss. If he's so crazy, wrong, and mistaken, then what's the problem? Things that make you go, And indeed, things that make you go, Now, my point is not to underline these stories themselves, right? My point is to say, that the stories themselves highlight that because the media is not doing its job, because they've become so untrustworthy, you have an inability to get any kind of common denominator on any one of these things. And that's why you start having people who are just either stupid, have TDS, are ignorant, and misled, who continue to go out and share their opinion. People like Mark Cuban, who continues to think Charlottesville's a real hoax, and like it's real. He still believes the news. People who still believe the news, you basically just can't take them seriously. You can't even interact with them, right? Because you can't take this stuff seriously, and you can't take people who take it seriously. And indeed, the world is just this big big clown situation where taking any of this stuff seriously, taking any of these people at their word, makes you look like an idiot, right? Let me just get the next. How do I miss some of these stuff? It makes no sense. Mark Cuban, 2 Candace Owens, Mark Cuban. Where's my fucking Fisher King quote? Literally the most important one I had for the day, and somehow it's not here. Okay, I'll get it. I will get it. So this comes from Fisher King talking on these points. If I can find it. There it is. So here's what he says, right? So he says, and this is, so just to tie it back to what I was saying, this comes down to not taking these people seriously and just realizing the moment we're in when the media has failed this badly, right? He's saying the entire society is frivolous and decadent. It's ridiculous from top to bottom. Most jobs are now fake busy work. There are dozens and dozens of lifestyle choices that are little more than grotesque and self-destructive fetishes. That's the toaster fucking we were talking about yesterday. Do some searches on here, you won't believe what you see. Then we run fake elections every couple of years and pretend the result is of supreme importance when an unelected bureaucracy just refuses to do what elected officials instruct them anyway. And the media is just a blizzard of lies and nonsense. Tend to your own garden, look after those close to you, and try to do something in your local community. The rest of it is bullshit in this current environment. Now, Fisher King is right here, but he's missing, obviously, the Bitcoin component, right? So by missing the Bitcoin component, but he's pretty close to it, right? By saying do something in your community, do something with the people close to you. That's the P2P protection we have against all of this ridiculousness, right? All of this pessimism, all of this inability to see a better future, right? And because Bitcoiners have, and I guess you can go back to this axis of prestige thing that we were talking about yesterday with the toaster fuckers, right? The worldview that we have really gets shaped by what we honor, right? The things that we think are great are, in the end, what helps us easily imagine a better world. And it's easy for us to imagine, for example, education being taken care of by all kinds of people who are motivated by a better community. And because we see it every day in Bitcoin, we see how the P2P meetup culture has worked. We see how Bitcoiners can use each other to help grow and evolve and all of these things, right? So the capacity that we have to honor new things and contrast what we honor with what is just accepted as broken in the fiat sludge world, right? They just completely accept it as fiat sludge world. Nolan, was legacy media ever anything but a psyop? I'm not sure. I think so. Yeah, I think that's what it's been, you know? So because we can believe in a better future, and because it's easy for us to believe in a better future, we have a benefit, let's say, because we also don't have typical jobs, right? We don't have typical bosses. We can't be in those experiments that I just mentioned with the 17 people and one can't see it, right? Or one will lie. We know the world's bigger. We know that the Bitcoiners don't fall for this stuff, almost like a phalanx around psychological manipulation. Because instead of looking at the 17 people in a row that are just normal 17 people, we can look over and see Bitcoiners who are continuing to tell you the basic stuff, right? Lift weights, eat healthy, do your work, do what you say you're going to do, and stack sats and stay humble. And that's all it actually takes to win this war. That's all it takes to actually not get rolled by a media that's incapable of doing its job, and a media that is unwilling to ask the most basic questions, because, go back to it, they're in on it in the sense that they have a job. That's just what their paycheck comes from. They don't have to know the whole story. But if you're paying for media and it's a corporate body, or if you're in this bureaucracy and it's these corporate bodies, then there is no need for them to have any reaction or any feedback loop, right? It's just not necessary. So Mike Benz was talking about that just yesterday on his podcast, because he's predicted the Stanford thing coming down and all that other stuff, right? And even the CIA. And here's what he says. He goes, the CIA is not the final boss in all of this, right? It is not the final boss. And here's what he says, right? And this is the good news for us, right? Let me just get it on mine so I can read it easily. He says the CIA is not the final boss. It's like Furio in The Sopranos, not Tony. It looks like the Rogue One because it's the madman who shows up at the door cracking skulls, but it's the Blob above it that is tasking it with the dirty job. CIA bankers, CIA lawyers, and CIA money laundering, the creative structuring of offshore transactions to run covert financial support to an in-progress operation, right? So here he's talking about everything that I've said for a long time, which is the money laundering system that's out there. So when you ask, has the mainstream news always been fake? Well, as long as it's been financing war, and as long as the predicates for war have been necessary to wage the war, and as long as the war made people money with the money laundering involved, it's been fake. And it was designed to do that, right? That's what it was designed to do from the very beginning, to finance war. World War I needs to be re-understood entirely by Americans. World War I is really about a systemic challenge to war finance from the gold countries versus what America was doing at the time. And we won. We made the much better system to finance war. And the whole world's been cleaning up with that innovation that we had since then. So indeed, the war finance mechanism requires all of these bureaucrats that have jobs, the blob that he's talking about, right? Now, the fun thing that's happening is that they'll only do those jobs as long as they keep getting paid. And they'll only get paid in US dollars forever and ever. So attacking the US dollar really does attack the blob. And that's why he was predicting, Mike Benz was predicting, once you saw the Saudi deal end, that's why you would see Tether and these other things start to become pushed by the deep state, because indeed they want these new debt buyers, and Tether is a big debt buyer and all these folks, but they don't really understand, the CIA, what's going on with the Tether folks, and they're not on your side, guys. Okay, they're on. When I say they're not on your side, I don't even need them to be on our side. That's not what I mean. The stablecoin printers have Bitcoin. They want their Bitcoin to go up. The dollar thing, when Bitfinex and Tether even created that was just to get around not being able to participate in the money laundering bonanza that the CIA had instituted around the world. They found a way to get around it. They were forced to create Tether. Remember that. They were forced to create Tether by FATF and FinCEN and FinTrack and all these people. They weren't like, I got an idea, I'm going to create a stable coin. That's not what happened. They got shut down, or threatened to be shut down, from their normal correspondent banking operations, and said, wait a minute, we need to create something else. And so they did it. They got debanked, and they created the dollar, or the Tether dollar. So they created the Tether dollar, and these people might seem like money laundering partners the CIA wants to deal with, but go for it. Please, I beg you, go talk to Paolo about getting the dollar strong again. Tell me how that works out in the end. We're going to rug pull these motherfuckers like they've never been rug pulled. Okay. We are the actual rug. You know how used to getting rug pulled we are? This is our speciality, rug pulling people. All right. This is crypto. This is not the Bitcoin side. I love that Bitcoin maxis protect Bitcoin people from the rug pulls, but they have to know that these are what we do to the NPCs and the normies, right? It's not to take Bitcoiners' money away from them. It's to take stupid people that are thinking that the CIA is a good working partner for Tether. All right, guys, see ya. So when I say that the axis of prestige and the axis of what we honor is changing, they can't put a bunch of USD in front of some of these early Bitcoiners and say, hey, change your ways. The hypnotism won't work, right? So the rug pull that's being set up, the epic rug pull that's being set up on all of the blob, is hilarious, and it's going to be funny, and it's just going to be exactly what we think it is, right? It looks like it's going to be complete chaos from what Fisher King described as this silly system that will just continue to get weaker and weaker and weaker, and will no longer be prestigious, will no longer attract the best and brightest, and will continue to just lose relevancy to the point where there's more Corinne Jean-Pierres, there's more Cory Bushes, there's more of that stupid journalist saying, oh, you healed her with your prayers? You healed her with your prayers? It's not going to work. So the win is happening quick. Now, we'll get there. All right. I don't have too much time. I have a typical job and a typical slave driving boss. Yeah. Go outside and run barefoot through the grass. Indeed. I know he's just a minority owner. Yeah, we love that. Yeah. We're talking about Mark Cuban losing. I'm glad you believe in a better future, Crypto Truth. Morning, Greg. Yeah, I still believe in God. You got to, man. No way around that. Listening to Chaos by Tom O'Neill, recommended. Yeah, she did recommend that yesterday on the show. Bitcoin. I thought you were going to say, well, the Michelle Obama thing too. I mean, again, Macron was like, well, he's French. It's a funny story. I live, because I went to college in France, right? And I remember laughing with my friends, because I'm not like you wouldn't think of me as like a macho guy in America, right? I'm not like top level macho guy, but in France, I was like a lumberjack compared to the dudes there. And I did ham it up. I did wear like a lot of flannel and plaid, and I tried to look like a stereotypical Canadian. Yeah. All right, team. Just like there are no pics of Michelle being pregnant. Yeah. But again, guys, I don't I don't know the answer to that, right? Matt, I've been watching the Breakup for 1 year. Keep the Moscow time predictions and tech rants coming. The winning will be incredible. Thanks, Matt. We love it. Bitcoin Dab. Yeah, you got it right there. This is... yeah. My 83-year-old dad won't go to a doctor and looks and feels great. My mom, who goes to a doc every other day, is always in pain. Hard to watch. Yeah. Almost a few weeks longer and she wouldn't be here. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that, Vito. Yeah. Calling my dad before he passed. Have you drank any water today? I had 3 cups of... Yeah, exactly. You know, the whole deal, Crypto Truth. You know the deal. Mm-hmm. The senior abuse of the other is just cruel. Wasn't it Senior Abuse Day the other day? And he tweeted it out from his handle, like senior abuse awareness or something. All right, team. I got a busy day. I got to do 2 podcasts and a meeting today. So I shall bid you all an early adieu and see you tomorrow. Peace out.